Boy, does it feel good to be back. Welcome to Skagway. I almost just got run over by a bus. We're on Klondike tours today. We're going up into the beautiful mountains of Alaska and then into the beautiful mountains of Canada. Here we go.
Pretty small town. I have a few people on my bus sometimes that have been here before. So if you have, welcome back. We have 3 different docks. So all of you, I think, have come from different docks. And so we will figure that out when we get done with the tour. But this is Skagway. Skagway has a couple of different trains. We have a lot of railroads. We have 3 railroads that run straight through town. And so it gets pretty busy around here. A lot of foot traffic, a lot of train traffic. But Skagway is home to about 900 to 1,000 locals. So people that stay here during the winter, there's only about 900 or so of them. And that number kind of triples in size when all the seasonal workers come into town. So it goes from about 1,000 to about 2,000 to 3,000. And then with you guys in town, it goes to about 12 to 13,000. So we grow a lot when you guys are here. But Skagway, if you can't already tell, it is kind of like a wind tunnel. We get a lot of wind here. The indigenous people, the First Nations people, they used to be called Skagway. That was the original name. And that translates to home of the north winds or windy place. And that is true for Skagway. We can get up to 60, 70 miles per hour winds in the winter time. And Skagway's pretty cool. If you don't know, it is the gateway to the Klondike Gold Rush, which I'll kind of talk about later. But it was basically the port that everyone went to get to find gold. But over here to our left here, this is our RV park, a camping spot. We also have Pullen Creek. And Pullen Creek is pretty cool. It's named after Miss Pullen. She was kind of the lady that during the Klondike Gold Rush, she was here and she kind of established all of like the hotels and things like that. So she helped made sure people all had a bed to sleep in. She was really important to Skagway's economy and things like that. So we have Pullen Pond, it's to our left, kind of in those trees there if you want to take a walk. But yeah, Skagway is only about 22 blocks long and about 4 blocks wide. So if you look in front of you, that is the end of Skagway. 4 blocks that way. But this is 2nd Street. 2nd Street's pretty cool, and I'll take you down our main street. Our main street is called Broadway. Broadway. So anything that you're going to want to see is on Broadway Street. On our left here, this is a train depot. So if you're looking to get on the train later and you don't have a ticket, you can go there and buy one. We also have our Klondike Gold Rush Visitor Center. It is a museum. It's free. We also have some stickers and things in there. And everything will be open later today. It's usually open around 8-ish. To our left now is the Red Onion Saloon. The Red Onion Saloon is probably one of the most famous places here in Skagway. It used to be a brothel back in the day. They do give pretty good brothel tours and ghost tours. If you don't know what a brothel is, it's where women make soup together. So we have the Golden North Hotel here. Has a couple of different hauntings. And it was important. It was actually here during the Gold Rush with that gold top on it.
It's supposed to be ice cream somewhere.
On our right coming up, we have the Skagway Hardware. This is our Walmart here in Skagway. It has everything that you can need in there. We have no Walmart. We have no McDonald's. We have no fast food, really. Everything is locally owned in some capacity. If you look on the mountainside, you might have seen already it looks like a clock up there. That is Kermsey's Curios, and this is the storefront here to our right. Kermsey's used to be a watch and repair store back in the day. And they have a bunch of different advertisements up there. You just can't see them because of all the trees, but they used to have a bunch of different advertisements for local businesses that were here during the gold rush. And people would fly in and see, oh, I can get my watch repaired, and then they would go get their watch repaired at Crimsey's. This is our financial district here in Skagway, our one and only bank and post office. Now we are exiting Skagway's financial district. We have the Skagway Inn to our left, which is a historic hotel. To our right there, that is another museum. It's a city museum. And that's about it. We've got about 8 blocks for you guys to discover. The rest of Skagway is mainly residential.
Remember up the side streets there's a house from a guy.
A lot of these houses, though, if you guys take a walk down this way and the other 4 blocks that way, you will see that some of these houses are still preserved, and some of them were here during the Klondike Gold Rush. Some will have like little plaques on them, or they'll have little names on them as you walk around. Skagway also has a lot of different plants and things. If you look around, you can find some cherry trees here and there. At the Skagway Library, there is a cherry tree in the back, and you can pick cherries and eat them. I did that last year. They're super good. Another fun fact about Skagway is we don't have a doctor or a hospital. So if you get injured in any way, you have to be life-flighted to Juneau. And that's about a $10,000 flight. So good luck. However, if you can handle it and you're not dying, you can take about a 6-hour ferry ride to Juneau.
There was a hospital sign.
This is our hospital, in quotation marks. It's a clinic. There's about 4 nurse assistants there. We have no doctor though. We do have a traveling dentist that visits once a month. That's it though. We do have construction, which is rare.
See that house up on the hill?
Do you have any eagles? We do have eagles. Usually you'll see the eagles close to the water because they're trying to find food to eat. I'll show you that in just a minute though.
Another
Do you
campground.
have bears or salmon?
Yeah, we had a bear last year that was kind of creating chaos in the town. We haven't had any this year though, but yes, they sometimes come down the mountain. Right here to our left is our one and only gated community here in Skagway. It's our RV park. Coming up on our right, this is the most expensive building here in Skagway. It's our fire department, police department, DMV, vet clinic, all in one. Costs about $7 million. It's about the price of Alaska, approximately. Yeah, as we make our way, you might catch a glimpse of the train. So the White Pass Trail and the White Pass train are kind of in similar spots. We kind of drive on the roadside, but we kind of drive in the same area. So you get kind of the same views, just a lot cheaper on the bus. But the train's pretty cool if you like trains. Also, let me know if it's getting too warm or too cold. It's pretty toasty, but just let me know.
Feels good right now.
To our right, we do have the train depot of sorts. This is where the train goes when you guys aren't here. If it needs any fixing or it needs to sleep for a little bit, that's where it goes. We're also going to pass the Skagway River, so birds love the Skagway River. You don't get a lot of fish, however, but they will hang out kind of around where the ocean and the river meet. This is the Skagway River. The reason why we don't get a lot of fish in this river is because this river is glacially fed, meaning it comes from the glaciers. The glaciers have what's called glacial silt, which is kind of like dirt and rock and mineral, and it's really thick. And so fish don't really like that very much. Also, I forgot to mention, we don't have a bathroom on this bus, if you didn't already know. But we are going to make a couple of our stops have bathrooms. Our first stop will have a bathroom. I will warn you, it's more like an outhouse. There's not really any flushing or running water, but it's there if you need it.
What the cost of gas, Chris?
But we are kind of exiting Skagway, sort of. We're going to go to what we call the Overlook, so you can kind of get a view of everything we kind of just drove through. But something cool about Skagway is that it's really close to a place that we like to call Dyea. And Dyea was another port that people could take to get to the Klondike Gold Rush. Now it's more like a ghost town, so there's no one that lives there anymore. But we had two different ports. So Skagway was home to the White Pass Trail, which I'll kind of tell you a little bit about later. But Dyea, which is the road that I'm about to turn onto, you can get there this road. But Dyea's pretty cool. We won't go there today, but just to tell you a little bit about it, it's home to the Chilkoot Trail. If you guys have seen any pictures of the Klondike Gold Rush, you might have seen that famous picture of it looks like a big mountain, and it's all white, and there's like little men or other prospectors that are kind of dotted going up this mountain. That's a pretty famous picture. You can probably find it literally anywhere in Skagway. But that is the Chilkoot Trail. Chilkoot Trail was also known as the Poor Man's Trail. And that was because the White Pass, you could bring horses, and so usually if you had a horse, you had a little bit more money. But yeah, Chilkoot Trail was the Poor Man's Trail. It also was known as the Staircase to Heaven, and that is because it was so incredibly steep. Give me 1 second. But yeah, so Dyea, forgot where I was at.
Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, Stairway to Heaven.
The
It was super steep, but it was shorter. So a lot of people chose that because they thought they would get to the Klondike faster. And a lot of the time, people would hire some of the indigenous people that were around here. So the Klondike Nation was kind of around here in Skagway and Dyea. And they would hire some of the people to help them across because indigenous people knew all about the land and all about the climb. And they were pretty used to it. And a lot of the times they would have to go up and down the path in order to bring all of their things across about 40 to 50 times. So it took a lot of climbing to get all of their things across. But this first stop, we're going to stop here in just a minute. It does have a bathroom like I mentioned, so if you need to go, I would suggest doing that first. That way we can make a quick stop and keep on going. And another fun fact about me is that I'm not just a bus driver. Another title I have is a professional photographer. Not actually, that's just one of my titles. I love taking pictures of you guys and all my guests. If you guys have any questions while we're here, let me know. But you'll get a pretty good view of your cruise ship and a pretty good view of Kermsey's clock and all the mountains back here.
So there is no salmon?
There is no what?
Salmon.
Salmon, I see. Salmon, so Skagway doesn't get too much salmon. Dyea, however, does. You might see, though, close to your dock, if you look in the water, you'll see some seals. We get a lot of seals around here. So this little brown looking thing, that is your bathroom.
We're going to pull up right here.
I'm going to pull up here, and then you are free to go take some pictures. Just a warning, maybe don't go into the road. It's a pretty twisty road and people go really fast here. Alrighty, let's go. Alrighty, so we're gonna make our way kind of towards Canada now.
Yeah, I heard that somebody was saying it's been raining here like every day today.
Really? Lucky us.
Some of you were asking about the weather. The weather here is usually pretty rainy. It's the southeast. So southeast Alaska usually is rainy, wet, and foggy. So Ketchikan, Juneau, all that jazz. We all get a lot of rain. Out of all of the southeast cities, though, Skagway gets probably the least amount. Ketchikan probably gets the most. And yeah, we also don't get very much snow down here, at least in Skagway, like town. But as we make our way up on top of the mountain, obviously there gets a lot of snow up there. But Skagway only usually gets about like 1 to at least the max, probably like 5 feet of snow, which is still a lot, but you know, it's Alaska. Was about the same size as Skagway back during the Gold Rush. Gold Rush was easily had about 10,000 to 15,000 residents during the Gold Rush. People were swarming to get to the Yukon, and the Yukon is kind of where the initial Gold Rush started and where they found all the gold. And Dyea was about as big. The reason why Dyea became a ghost town was because the railroad started to be built. They were trying to decide whether to put it in Skagway or Dyea, and Skagway won out on that. And so that's why we have Skagway kind of how it is today. It's a big tourist attraction. Skagway gets most of its money from the cruise ships. I would say probably 90% of Skagway's economy is you guys. So
90%. And how did they survive during COVID?
But yeah, you will also see Alaska, or Skagway is also known as the Garden City of Alaska. and we get a lot of different types of flowers and things along the sides of the road. We also have wild rhubarb growing around town. There was a guy during the gold rush. He brought rhubarb seeds and he would plant them. So he's known as King of Rhubarb. So we have a bunch of rhubarb kind of growing along the sidewalk. So if you walk around there, you might see some. I can point some out later today. But yeah, so this road is the only road in and out of Skagway. So because Juneau, you can't drive in Juneau. You can only fly or go by boat. It's pretty difficult to get to the city or the state's capital. But this road is the only road in and out of Skagway, and so if you go into Canada, which we are going to go a little, and the closest city to drive is Whitehorse. Whitehorse is the Yukon's capital, and that is where if people want McDonald's, that's where they go. You drive about 2.5 hours though to get there. They also have a Walmart and a Canadian Costco, and they have a bunch of other things that Skagway does not. But Whitehorse relies heavily on Skagway because we have these huge tanker trucks, which we might see going up this way. And these huge tanker trucks bring gasoline and other types of important necessities to Whitehorse. We are Whitehorse's lifeline when it comes to gasoline and other necessities. There is a little village called Carcross, which is a little indigenous village that people would go to get to the gold rush. It is home to Bennett Lake, which Bennett Lake was important. People would, once they got across the White Pass or the Chilton Trail, they would cross Bennett Lake. Bennett Lake was a connection to the Yukon River, which, like I mentioned, the Yukon River is where people found gold. Unfortunately, Skagway, they did try to find gold here. They never actually found gold in Skagway, but it was still important for people to get to where they needed to go. Coming up on our right and then on left soon after, we call these the Black Lakes. The Black Lakes, there's a funny story that goes along. They said that after a long day of digging in the river, trying to find gold or silver or what have you, the prospectors would make their way back down to Skagway, back to their wives. But first, before they could go home, they had to be clean. So they would take a bath here in these lakes. That's why it's black and dirty and gross. So they take a bath and they walk back to their homes. We are going to make another quick stop here. If you went to Juneau already, you'll know, if you've seen the Juneau ice fields, this is the end of the Juneau ice fields. If you look to your right, the sun's kind of right over there. If you look to your right, you see that little white little thing poking out. That is the ice fields. Sometimes they have heli skiing, so people will take a helicopter up there and they'll ski their way down. And also in the wintertime when these are covered in snow, they also do heli skiing. So if you're interested, you know, if that's your thing. But if you want to get out,
That's my high and
Yeah.
you're low.
right side, or on the left side, I should say. Don't worry if you are sad that you think you sat on the wrong side. We are going to flip around and you'll get all the way down.
What?
On the way back, we can the other side.
Yeah. Message you have to send, so it's
Like I was saying though, this road is the only way in and out, and so we do have a snowplow that runs all winter long. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. You might see coming up here in a little bit. There are these like poles that stick out of the ground, and they have red, white, or yellow on them, and that is to indicate that the mountain has ended or you are about to hit the mountain. So when the snowplow is going, this is all white. So you can't really tell where the road is and where it ends. And so for the snowplow to know where the mountain ends and begins, they have these little poles, which I'll point out in just a little. But you might notice on some of the rock slabs to our left, those have little how do you say that word? Indentations, yeah, in them. They're like these vertical lines. Those are drill marks. So to make this road, the Skagwayans, they would blow dynamite in the rock. That they can
just
continue
like
this
going
road. And this road goes all the way, like I said, into
Yes.
Canada.
That's
And it connects to the Alaska-Canada Highway, also known as the Alcan. And you can get to other parts of Alaska, like Haines and Fairbanks and
There's a guy.
places like that. But it takes a long time because there's only one road. You'll also notice we have a lot of different types of trees here. The main type of tree though is the Sitka spruce. Sitka spruce was really cool, and the indigenous people knew that the spruce tip here is chock full of vitamin C. And during the Klondike Gold Rush, a lot of the prospectors that were coming up this way, they didn't really know what they were doing, and a lot of them would get sick or die from scurvy. Scurvy is when you don't get enough vitamin C and vitamins from fruits and things like that. And so a lot of them were dying or getting sick from it, and the indigenous people were very helpful to a lot of the prospectors. And they would tell them, hey, take a couple bites out of some spruce tip leaf, and they would feel a lot better. Skagway now has a spruce tip ale, so they put it in a beer, and it's like your daily dose of vitamin C. So basically your orange juice in the morning.
Just right here. You're out of it.
You can get that at any of the
For
breweries in
medicinal
Skagway.
purposes only.
This is going to be the U.S. Customs building. You aren't going to need your passport. The customs buildings are about 20-ish miles apart. Usually when you go through a border crossing, they are right next door to each other. But because we are going to summit a mountain, the customs buildings are far apart because there's not really anywhere to put the buildings. And it is avalanche territory where we are going, and so it's pretty dangerous for the officers to be there. So we like to call this part no man's land. It's technically the U.S. because we haven't crossed the border technically, but yeah, we call this no man's land here. And you can't get stuck in between the border crossings. I think they close at like 8:30 or something like that. And some people have gotten stuck. There was a friend of mine who got stuck in between the two customs buildings, and he decided to park his car and take his bike down to Skagway. And he woke up and later that day, or the next day, and went back up to his car, and he had a $3,000 fine for illegally crossing the border, even though he had already crossed the border, but the gate had just closed. So that kind of stinks for big long pipe that you'll see, and a waterfall called Pitchfork Falls. And up where that pipe goes is called Goat Lake. So it connects to a lake, and at the very bottom of that pipe is a hydroelectric machine that powers all of Skagway and your boats while they're docked. It also powers our next door neighbor, Haynes. So it can power 2 small cities and all of your ships, and the ships that are docked in Haynes as well. And so no one in Skagway at least is really afraid of it running out of water. That overflow you'll see in that waterfall, that is the overflow from the lake, so they're not too worried about running out.
You're gonna stop there when you come to the way back?
Yeah, I'll stop on the way back. Although during the gold rush, there wasn't any gold really found in Skagway. There is a lot of other minerals that come from Skagway's rocks and things like that, as well as you'll see, we have a lot of different types of rocks, mainly granite, but we do have other minerals like copper and things like that in these rocks. We have a quarry that you might have seen as we made our way out. Over to our right coming up, we call this is a famous valley. It is called the Dead Horse Gulch. It's kind of the sad part of Klondike history is the White Pass is also known as the Dead Horse Trail. And that was because, like I mentioned earlier, you could pack animals and pack horses onto this trail. However, like I said, a lot of the people that were coming up here were just trying to make it rich. They didn't really know anything about surviving in the wilderness or packing horses. And according to Canadian law, they had to bring anyone that was coming to Dawson City, which is, again, where the gold was found. They had to bring at least 2,000 pounds of provisions and supplies. If they did not, they'd have to go turn back around and collect more. But that being said, the 2,000 pounds, a lot of people would overpack their horse and make it too heavy to where, they would overwork their horse. So a lot of the horses would end up collapsing and dying, along with other pack animals that people brought. So although the White Pass was pretty successful of people getting there, it has a pretty sad history. And the difference between the White Pass and the Chilkoot Trail, like the Chilkoot I mentioned was super steep, and the White Pass is not as steep, but it's super long, so it's a lot longer than the Chilkoot Trail. Yeah, this valley here is the Dead Horse Gulch, what we call it. You can also see Skagway River down there. Like I mentioned, these little poles hanging out, that is for the snowplow, like I was mentioning earlier. The saying goes, if you're in the white, you're all right. If you're in the red, you're dead. Coming up on our left is going to be a waterfall. It's pretty up close, so if you want to take a picture real quick. We will stop on the way back down though. But it is called Bridalveil Falls.
Another brother?
Cool story to Bridalveil Falls is that there's a story that there was a woman that drank from these falls. You can drink from them.
Right there.
And within about 5 months she got married. But it works in reverse if you're already married. So
Oh, dear.
let me know if you want to sit. I got a cup for you guys.
No.
Coming up soon, we're going to make our next stop. But first, we got a couple things to talk about. So, there's going to be a cool little suspension bridge, and it is Captain William Moore Suspension Bridge. William Moore was the first Captain William Moore, sort of. And yeah, him and his son came here, settled the land. They started the White Pass Trail. And so there's a bridge named after him now. The buses used to be able to drive over this bus, and it would sway like a swing, one at a time. The buses would go across. Luckily, we don't have to do that anymore. And we also drive right over a fault line. So the bridge not only would swing, but also was right under a fault line. So any earthquake, pretty scary. But you'll be able to see the fault line here in a little bit, and all the way back down, you kind of get a little bit better view. But it'll be on the left here. It's like this ridge, and it looks like a literal crack in the earth. There's waterfalls that run down it. We are currently driving over it. It goes right under this bridge, and it goes on the other side. If you look to your right, there's a little bit of a ridge you can kind of see, and that is a fault line.
Oh, here it is.
Looks like there's quite a few buses stopped here already. But this is one of my favorite picture stops. You have the bridge in the back, you have the fault line with the waterfalls. And to your right, you have the Sawtooth Mountain Range. Looks like shark teeth. Those are the Sawtooth Mountains. Let's try and make it so we're not in all the crowd.
Makes me so self-conscious that I'm tilting the camera by 1 degree.
Right here?
Bridge.
Beautiful.
Now where are the ones?
So you got this is the fault line here.
Oh, I see.
All the way back down. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Of course. You want a picture?
Waiting for my son.
So you'll also notice around here, we're going to get to a place where it kind of opens up into another valley. And around here you might notice the trees. The trees are a little weird looking. Some of them look like they are being blown away all the time. I don't know. And they are balding in some areas, so the branches will only grow on one side of the tree sometimes. And they'll only grow super short usually. That's because the rock here doesn't allow the roots to really dig in and let the tree grow. And so a lot of the trees here are pretty short. And along with the balding trees, they look like they're blowing in the wind all the time. And that is because of how windy it can get up here. The winds up here can get up to about 100 miles per hour during the winter on a bad day. And so the trees look like that because of the wind.
I can see it. It's not in it.
So you can hook your phone up to take binoculars? No.
So this valley here,
I have an
the river down
adapter,
there
but I
next
forgot
to
it
the
at
Skagway
home.
River. And there's a couple of different swimming pools and ponds and little lakes down
I would
here.
just I'd put my camera up
You'll
to the
also
lens
maybe
of the
notice some of
binocular.
the trees will have this
And then
light
look
green
through it.
moss on them. And that light green moss, or if you notice the light green algae that's growing on some of the rocks, that is an indication that you are breathing really clean air. It will only grow in
So people have horses, so we did.
Yeah.
That
But
was
you need to have your year's supply of whatever. Bring them all. So you take up 6 weeks' worth and then you come back and bring it up.
you survive each year.
Decide what the goal.
Another thing to maybe take note of, you might notice when we stop here in a little bit, we'll be on the Canadian side for just a little, and you might see this purple pinkish flower. That is known as fireweed. Fireweed is the Yukon's flower, and it is a pretty cool flower. It has a people history. The indigenous people used to use it as a calendar, so when they saw that the fireweed was in bloom, because it doesn't start blooming until around July-ish, they know that it is winter soon, so they start collecting things for winter. And we just summited the mountain at 3292 feet.
Is that the purple flowers?
Yeah, it's little purple flowers on the sides of the road. They're a little bit bigger when we get into Canada because of the sun. And we will be passing the Alaska sign. Don't worry, we will stop on the way down. Got to prove that you're in Alaska somehow. But now that we've seen the Alaska sign, that typically means we might be leaving Alaska and going into Canada now. So this is officially the U.S.-Canadian border. So welcome to Canada, everyone. To your left is a beautiful waterfall, or waterfalls, I should say. There's about a series of 7 of them. There's kind of some behind the one on the top there. So there's 7 waterfalls. You can hike that if you ever decide to come back up this way. So a really beautiful hike. I did it last year. It's very cold if you decide to swim in the water. And this next stop is pretty soon. It's going to be around this bend here. And this is what we call Tormented Valley. Tormented Valley was named after the Klondike Gold Rush, the people that made their way up here. It is super cold, super windy, and as you'll notice, you'll see a bunch of different pools of water. It's all connected to one big lake, but the rocks make it look like it's little pools of water.
It could be
There are bathrooms here, but once again, more like an outhouse than anything. And for my ladies, I would just recommend waiting, personally. But And once again, this is called Tormented Valley. You might have seen the train. It kind of passed by. And once again, it gets its name because of the gold rush. A lot of people didn't make it past Tormented Valley because of how brutal it is. And the weather up here just makes it super scary to hike and to walk across. And sometimes people would wait until the pools would freeze over, but that would just mean very cold weather. And like I said, the wind up here can get up to 100 miles per hour, and it would torment. And some days it would be, fine, and then the next day it would be super windy and super cold, and then the next day it would be fine, and then the next couple of days it would be super windy and cold, and so it would just kind of give the prospectors whiplash and cause for some to not be prepared for the weather. Like I said, the snow up here can get up to 40 to 50 feet of snow, so some days it would be a blizzard.
So we are heading back now?
Yes, we're going to head back into Skagway. We're still going to make a few stops though. The first one is going to be the Alaska sign. It's just right up here, so don't get too comfortable. Hopefully all those buses have left by now, so we'll have it to ourselves. But yeah, so with this Alaska sign, just be pretty careful. It is a steep drop down, and there's not any railing for you. So just be careful. And once again, I'll be here to take your pictures. I will be close to the Alaska sign. If you want to take a picture of, it's not a Canadian sign necessarily, but it does have a Karen.
And another glacier, and another glacier. Now that you're halfway back, what you How long did it take to build the railroad?
How long did it take to build the railroad? Good question.
What am I supposed to?
How much do you have?
So they started it around
You could see it. I thought it would happen like underneath.
a little bit after the gold rush officially started and the prospectors were for a while. And I think it took them about 5 or 6 years.
How much do I owe you for the Wendy's stuff on the airport?
I don't know.
Yeah, they were kind of in a rush because there was really no way to get there quickly. And so yeah, they were kind of in a rush to get that done.
It was like $8. Not much.
All right, so it's about a 20 to 30 minute ride back down. We'll make maybe 1 or 2 more stops, and then we'll go to the cemetery. I want you guys to have plenty of time there because it's there's a little bit more stuff to do there, a little bit more walking to do. I'll tell you a little bit more about the cemetery and stuff when we get a little bit closer. But we're going to go down this mountain, so bear with me for a little.
It's gotta be scary in the winter.
No doubt.
Initial gold strike was made by a group of people. It kind of is debated on who actually found the gold, but these group of people, you don't have to remember these names, but I'm going to tell you anyway. But there's the George Carmack, which is probably the one that you will hear most about, just because that's usually who is like said to have found the gold first. He was a white man, so there's that. And there was 3 other people with George Carmack, and they were all indigenous people. It was his wife Kate, and Skookum Jim, and Dawson Charlie. And they were all with him when this gold was found. And once again, it kind of is debated on who actually found the gold. The story goes is that they were, panning for gold, looking for gold in Lake Creek, which is just off of the Yukon River. And they were panning for gold, and George was the one that stumbled upon a big nugget of gold. But there are some other differing stories. Some say that they went moose hunting and they had been, looking for gold all day. They didn't find anything, and they went moose hunting for dinner. They, got their moose and they were cooking it up for dinner. And it was said that Skagway went to the river and while they were like moose hunting or whatever, and they found the gold, or he found the gold there. And the reason why people would think of Skagway, it seems to be that he might have been the actual one that found it, but because he was indigenous, they believe that he wasn't able to legally claim that he had found the gold, unfortunately. And so that's why George is the one that gets, all the glory, I guess. Also, some people believe it was Kate Carmack, so George Carmack's wife, that found it. And they believe that after, they ate dinner, the moose dinner, she went and washed the dishes in the river and found the gold. And so it kind of just up to who you ask of what they'll tell you about who was the original founder of Yukon Gold.
It's just a black. That is so.
And out of all of the people that, came into Skagway to go looking for gold, there's about 100,000 people that tried, or made it to Skagway at least. Only about 30 people actually struck it rich in Gold Rush.
30.
And some of those people are, you may know some names that have descended from Klondike Gold Rush and got rich from it. One of them being Nordstrom and the Trucks as well. Once again, this is the ridge line here on our right with the waterfalls up the fault line. And again, Captain William Moore Suspension Bridge here on the left. And now the Sawtooth Mountains are getting a little bit bigger as we get closer to them. But they are in front of us now.
Towing a trailer. There you go, Brad.
And once again, I said we were going to take a stop at Bridalveil Falls. And you can drink from the falls. It comes from it's glacially fed as well. And so if you want a cup, I have some for you. Or if you want to, rough it out, you can do it with your hands. But we'll be there in just a little bit. I will warn you, please be very careful. It is at like a blind spot in the road. So people, fly down this road just because it's, a mountain. So just watch your step and make sure you're not stepping back into the road. But we'll make this a pretty quick stop. That way we can get you guys down and to the cemetery.
What could be worse? She said you get divorced in 5 months or get married in 5 months.
Make this super tight for all the buses.
That's the worst thing. They have duct taped everything shut.
Also, you can smile for the cameras if you'd like. They do take pictures of the buses.
U.S. Port of Entry,
Oh my god. DJ can't really make fun of me. And then look how he hugs me. He's such a narcissist abuser.
Only a U.S. flag. Oh, this is the U.S. for the birthday. We got a honeybird feeder.
Everyone else is off cruise ship. Everybody's a U.S. citizen.
Where does he? No, he doesn't. Where's he coming from? Skagway? Comes up here. I hate my job.
Alrighty. So the cemetery is pretty cool. That is where the original cemetery was back in the day. And the reason why I say original is because it is pretty close to the river. And so it has been flooded a couple of times. So some of the gravestones look a little fake. And some people ask, like, is this a real cemetery? It is a real cemetery. It's just, it has been flooded. And so they just kind of reenacted where the gravestones were and how they looked. And there are a couple of different characters here in this cemetery. Some you may know. There are a couple of names that are pretty famous. So one is by the name of Jefferson Smith, also known as Soapy Smith. He was, during the Klondike Gold Rush, a lot of people stayed in Skagway and made their money here with all the prospectors and people coming up here to try and get gold. And so there was Soapy, who he was a mischievous man, a con man of sorts, but he also was very well liked by a lot of the people here. He kind of ran like the underground business of Skagway. He was also had the police and things like that wrapped around his finger. So there was a little bit of crime going on around in Skagway, but he was also very charismatic and things like that. And so people liked him, but also there was a couple of people that disliked him for obvious reasons. But like I said, he was a sort of con man, and he made a lot of money, you know, with his little schemes. Soapy, the name, comes from one of his schemes where he would sell bars of soap, and when his people would, like his henchmen, I should say, but they would try and sell the soap, what he would do is that he would wrap like dollar bills or money around these bars of soap, and he would have his henchmen in the crowd and try to get people to buy the soap. And then when people would buy the soap, obviously he would not have money wrapped around the soap, and so he got his name Soapy from that scheme. But he is buried here, and there was another fella by the name of Frank Reed, and Frank Reed was another person here in Skagway during the gold rush, and he came about the same time as Soapy, a little bit before him, and he was trying to establish Skagway to be, you know, a cool town. But then Soapy came along and kind of had the town wrapped around his finger. And so Frank Reed did not like Soapy very much, and on a drunken night, down on one of the piers, close to First Street actually, you can see there's a rock that was where Frank Reed and Soapy Smith had a duel, a gun duel. And what happened was Frank and Soapy both shot, and Soapy died instantly, but Frank unfortunately got shot in, I believe it was his leg or his groin, and he suffered for about 3 or so days until he eventually succumbed to his wounds. But yeah, Frank Reed, some people believe that Frank Reed was just jealous of Soapy, and he didn't like how much power he had. Others say that he was trying to, minimize crime by eliminating Soapy. So it kind of just depends on who you ask. But yeah, that is the famous story of Frank Reed and Soapy Smith. You can also read about them. There is a little billboard of sorts that kind of tells you a little bit about the people that are buried there. There's a couple of other characters, a lot of women, some, women that worked nights, if you know what I'm saying. There are some of those women there as well. You can read about them and what happened. Along with the cemetery, so there's the cemetery part, and then some people have asked about Reed Falls. And Reed Falls is an awesome waterfall. I would highly recommend if you can get up there. It is a little bit of a walk, a little bit of a climb. There's a little bit of an incline. But I would recommend if you can and are able, definitely try. There is a bit of a paved pathway to get to the cemetery, and then after that it gets a little bit more uneven. There's, roots and rocks and things. So just be careful if you do decide to go up towards the falls. It's only about a 5 or so minute climb after the cemetery. So it's not too far of a walk. And the trail is kind of like a loop. So if you come back down, any way that you go, there's 2 ways that you can go, and any way that you decide to go, you will make it back down to the parking lot. But we will be there in about 5 or so minutes. And there is a bathroom here, like I mentioned earlier. So if you need to go to the bathroom, I would recommend doing that now. Really quickly, you can see the cruise ship dock there.
Do the cruise ships come daily?
Yes, we have cruise ships almost every single day during the season. Usually on busy days, so Fridays are less busy, but usually it's Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays. We have 4 ships in at a time. So that gets to about 12 to 13,000 people in town. And you'll see it was pretty bare when we left, but when we get back, it's a lot busier. And after the cemetery, before I kind of drop you guys off, I'll let you know, how to get back to your ships and things to do, things like that. I kind of mentioned some things already. But in town, there's a couple other tours you can do if you want to ride the train, if you aren't leaving super early from Skagway. There are the brothel tours. There is a show of sorts. It's called the Days of 98 show. And it tells you a little bit, it's a kind of like a musical production about Soapy Smith and Frank Reed and things like that. And there's Can Girls and things like that. That's the Days of 98 show. There are a couple trails you can also walk around. Those of you that are coming from the Norwegian cruise, your dock is right near a pretty famous trail. It's really quick, and I'll point that out to you guys if you'd like.
So do you guys want to go back to the
Over here.
We'll walk down first.
We are passing into the Skagway River once again. And over to the right, actually, that is Mount Harding, named after President Harding. And President Harding, he visited here. He called Skagway the armpit of America. So, love that. Don't know why we named a mountain after him, but
Here are the bikers.
Very good.
also the train does pass through here, and so it passes about every 15 to 20-ish minutes. And so sometimes you'll hear and see the train, so that's kind of fun as well. It's a little bumpy, so I apologize. We also have a couple of landslides you might have noticed. You guys are on Railroad Dock. There are 2 landslides that happen there. There's one here. The one's on Railroad Dock. There's one that happened quite a long time ago, and there's one that happened, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. And that one hit one of the princess ships. And it didn't hurt anybody, but the princess ship did not like that, and they stopped coming for a little while. And then we had someone that got hired to literally watch the rocks to make sure that they wouldn't fall off the mountain and hurt anybody. So those of you that came from railroad, the reason why you have to go on a little ship shuttle or ship bus is because of that reason.